Greetings, brothers. Today we're jumping into Chapter Approved Nephilim from a point of view with Blood Angels. I've got a couple of my Discord mods, Tony and Mark, joining me, so this should be a pretty fun video. I hope you stick around. Alright, greetings, brothers. Thanks for joining us this week. We're here with Mark and Tony, and we're going to be talking about Nephilim. We've already done a video on Nephilim over on the Three Grots channel, which is our podcast that we do every week. We've just passed 700 subscribers. It's pretty good that people are enjoying the content, so if you haven't subscribed over the Grots, please come and check us out. There'll be a link in the video description. What are we talking about tonight, though, Tony? You are the man with the plan.
I don't know, I think a plan's pushing it a little bit, but we thought it's worth us talking about Blood Angels specifically. So the other day we recorded a video on Nephilim as a whole, and we looked at all the changes across all the factions, but we're all three of us Blood Angels players, and we wanted to have a bit more of a focused look at the army that we love the most. So here we are.
Brilliant. Okay. And I think we're going to start by talking about both the CP changes and if we feel battalions are still a must, or if you can run double patrol, or maybe patrol and vanguard. You guys, I know, Mark, you've played a game of Nephilim. My first game of Nephilim's in like 2 days. Mm-hmm. Mark, you actually ran a patrol and vanguard, right?
No, it was just vanguard. Nothing
okay.
else. Pure vanguard, where I had to maximize my slots, which is why I took a 10-man assault squad and combat squadded it for just the extra stuff in there. It all depends, really, on what use you want to put your troops to. Ultimately, if you're happy running troops, then make the most out of a battalion or patrol and the CP benefit that will give you. And if you don't want to run troops, then don't. You'll just have to pay the price in not having much CP left to beef up your smash captain or whatever else.
Yeah, and I mean, I suppose as Blood Angels, we have a reasonably decent advantage with Dante giving us 1 CP back.
Which is very helpful, yeah. We've also got an advantage in that our troops, whilst they're as shit as any other Space Marine troops, at a pinch, they're not bad in a fight. But
That's one of our things, isn't it? Yeah. Basically, nothing is that bad in a fight. Even land speeders, if you actually look at them, because they've got weapon skill 3 and a couple of like 3 or 4 attacks, and they're pretty tough to hit back, they're surprisingly good at mulching some chaff that's in the way.
Yeah. Ultimately, the attraction is going to be there for running a vanguard in one way or another to maximize the amount of elite slots you get, given the point drops on Sanguinary Guard, given the point drops on Death Company.
So did you run 3 Death Companies and 3 Sanguinary Guards?
No, I ran 3 Sangguard, a Sanguinary Ancient, and 2 Death Company.
Pretty, far off, then. I was going to say that feels pretty meta at the moment, right?
Yeah, it's fairly on the nose. It was just jumping in there and seeing how it all felt to play.
And you had fun with it?
Yeah, it was all right.
See, I still feel like I have to build a battalion. I know some of you guys don't spend so many CP, but I feel like we're pretty hungry CP wise. By the time I factor in suppression fire, heroic interventions from the Sanguinary Guard, angel sacrifice, potentially counteroffensive, and then sometimes like a reroll or something in there, that to me feels like, well, that's 6 CP and we've not even really got started, right?
Yeah, you're not wrong. I suppose it all comes down in that regard as to how good a mind you have for remembering all the various stratagems and tools you've got access to. If you've only got 1 or 2 CP a turn, you don't need to remember that many.
That's one way to look at it. 2 CP is not bad either. Yes, 2 CP is...
and you'll get 2 CP a turn.
Each turn, and then save a couple of CP to throw in a combat intervention and a suppression fire. Yeah. You don't arguably need all that many.
Okay, getting 1 a turn and 1 in your opponent's turn stacks up surprisingly quickly. You might not think it does, but the increase makes a difference.
We talked a little bit about... I've completely lost my train of thought. I was thinking we talked a little bit about starting CP, and yeah, that was it. And we felt like starting on 3 CP or 2 CP seemed like the ideal starting point. What did you start on, Mark, when you played your Vanguard detachment?
I started on 2. So obviously you start with 6 for 2k. I spent 3 for the Vanguard attachment. I spent 1 for Rathabal. I spent 1 for Rites of War, and I got 1 back with Dante. So I started on 2, which gave me 1 for Forlorn Fury if I wanted to use it, which I didn't because I went second, and just go from there really.
Okay. And where are you aiming to start on CP when you play a game, Tony?
So go back 2 years, and I was in where Mark is, and I was running like double vanguards and stuff like that because I rarely remember to use my CP. But for this, I've actually gone the complete opposite way, and my current list starts with 6.
You start with 6, okay.
Because I've spent 1 on Soul Warden because I still think Soul Warden's really important.
It is really good, yeah.
There's a lot of mortal wounds flying around, and then I put Dante in, which gave me 1 back.
Yeah,
you're running Dante.
I am at the moment. I'm not totally sold. I've played with him a little bit. I'm not, because before I didn't even run a captain, let alone Dante or a chapter master or anything, because I like to keep it cheap when it comes to characters. Spend the money on more men.
So at the time we're filming this, John is facing his first game of Nephilim in 2 nights' time. Are you going to run Dante as per the request from one of our 3 Grots viewers, John?
Did you sign up as a Patreon so that we would run him as...
No, he said he would if John did.
We get
and
extra
didn't
Patreon
carry
and
behind in the back like a coward.
We need the monies, so I think you should.
I'm so on the fence. I made a list last night where I can start with 5 CP and have Dante, right? Or I can start with 2 CP, but I can have my chapter master with Master of the Codex, which is a 4+ at the start of the command phase. You get a CP. So averages say that if he's alive for the whole game, I'll get 2.5 CP back. So a couple of 4+.
I don't think it's worth it. I really don't like that.
No,
like Mark was saying earlier, you get into a turn anyway. How many are you spending?
A lot.
Dante gives you your free angel sacrifice.
Yeah, he does.
I use them as a sacrifice, to be honest. Give me my auras till I need him as angel sacrifice or something.
It took a while to get you, John, to the point where you valued having lots of CP. So it's interesting to see this change in dynamic.
I think I'd struggle to spend more than a couple of turns. I don't combat interrupt every turn. I do suppression fire most turns. That's only 1.
Yeah, but it's a tough one. It's really tough. I
if
think
you're playing more often, you know your stratagems inside out. You know all the tools that they provide you. You'll come to value the CP more, I guess.
So why are you bringing your 4+ CP regen over your standard chapter master on a bike loadout you've been running for a couple of years now?
Because I guess I have to give up something, right, to get that. So I can still keep Gift of Foresight. I can still keep Armor Indomitus. I think they're the valuable picks on that chapter master. So it keeps him on toughness 5. It keeps him on 7 wounds, 2-up save with Ignore AP 1, 3-up invulnerable save for that 1 turn, and Gift of Foresight, so I can re-roll a 3-up invulnerable save when I need it for free. It gives him... He has no protection against mortals if you do it that way, but...
The Feel No Pain is mortal protection as well.
Yeah, it's. I guess I've got a priest who will give... I assume he's going to be hanging out... essentially, I've dropped the Sanguinary Ancient for a priest, I think. So the priest will be hanging out, giving him some mortals. Or some mortal protection, I guess. So...
It's not a lot of mortal protection, a 6-up Feel No Pain.
No, it's not, I suppose. But it does mean that if they don't kill him, the priest can always throw some wounds back on him, right?
Yeah.
And how do you feel about running that seriously tanky, beefed up single character versus the option of having all of that CP you just mentioned?
I think I'm probably going to run the beefed up single character because I just think he has the ability to angel sacrifice into any enemy in the game and get out pretty scot-free. And I think that has saved me. And so, I've had a 6-man squad of Sanguinary Guard in combat with a knight. I've said angel sacrifice on the chapter master. He's literally lose no wounds. And then I feel like if it was Dante, he would just be dead. The thing that keeps him alive is the toughness 5 and the 3-up invulnerable save with the free reroll. It can get expensive, I suppose, if you want to reroll a second 3-up save. But I feel like a 3-up save with a CP to reroll a 3-up save, I feel is kind of a valuable CP as well. If it means the difference between...
You've got a better than average chance of...
66% chance, I suppose, of saving him. So, into something like Mortarion. And I think we're going to see more Mortarions now. I think he's a lot stronger. I don't think Dante ever survives a round of combat against Mortarion. I think the Chapter Master can.
Dante doesn't really survive a round of combat.
He's not meant to be.
Anything. He's not that tough.
That's
No.
that's not what he's designed for.
No, that's very true. And they do have different roles, but I guess the way I play them, I feel like it suits me more. I think Dante is probably going to work for me as well. I think I'm just going to give the Chapter Master a go for a few games.
I'm trying him out, but I'm not sold on him at the moment. I've swapped out my chaplain for him, and don't know if I've made the right decision or not. But a little bit of extra AP is quite handy, and my chaplain I was feeling lack of AP with.
Yeah, because he's on no AP now if you don't into Marines, right? Because he's normally only -1. Yeah.
So if you're watching this as a Blood Angel fan and you're wondering whether or not you should go for more CP or less CP, the consensus seems to be do what the fuck you like, because we're all coming up with different points of view.
We've all gone completely different ways with this.
And whatever feels best to you, your army, the way you like to play, just whatever, mate.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we have.
What about our other name characters? All right, let's go down the list, shall we? Tycho.
You want to waste time on Tycho, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the name on everybody's list at the moment, aside from Dante, is Asterath.
Yes, because
I still don't rate him. My opinion hasn't changed in the slightest, but I can see why other people do.
He hits hard. He's a good character to have in your army if you want to do Blade of Sanguinius and you are hoping to kill something. Because I'd say he's probably the killiest standard size base infantry model that we can bring.
Yeah. He's down to 140 points now.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
how would you?
He can recite 2 litanies, which is nice. They're unreliable, but they're nice.
Here's a question for you then. On Asterath being a Blade of Sanguinius character, I suppose we'll get to Blade of Sanguinius secondary in a little bit. When we do get there, make sure let's talk about a Death Company captain now, because they could be potentially better for Blade of Sanguinius, because if they run something like Hammer of Baal, more strength, still -3, still 3 damage, and they could do a pre-game move. So if you went first, you could get a 12-inch move, then you could get a 12-inch jump. Then I'm sure at that point you could charge into any enemy character at that point, pretty much.
On the weapon loadout you've got, yeah, sure.
Whereas
but he costs a few CP, isn't he?
He does cost a few CP.
That's the rip, isn't it? Really, it's like the other one that's people are talking about a little bit. I know you like him. Is Mephiston. He's 140 points as well. He's tougher than your regular stuff, being toughness 5. Got a decent number of wounds. He's all right in combat. That damage D3 sword really pisses me off.
Agreed.
But built-in feel no pain.
He's got a 5-up feel no pain.
He is a tanky mofo,
He's a tanky dude.
He doesn't need CP spent on him, which is the one advantage to Mephiston. That's the reason that I was enjoying Mephiston before Nephilim, and I think I've said to a few people, I think Mephiston's stronger now because he literally doesn't benefit from any CP spent on him pre-game or anything like that. No. But not many people seem to be agreeing with that. But I mean,
toughness 5 with a 2-up save as well.
Yeah, toughness 5, 2-up save, 6 wounds, and a feel no pain.
The issue with him is going to be the same issue it was before, the reliability of his psychic powers.
Yeah. And I was recently at a tournament and Mephiston passed every cast, so I mean...
Were you on the top table at that tournament?
I was.
Wow.
I was so
table.
I didn't know that.
One of these times I'm going to win a tournament and you're going to have to eat the trophy I get from it. I'm going to ram it down your mouth.
Yeah.
I'll
get Andrew to make a special trophy for that day.
You know, what about our other characters? The Libby Dread. Libby Dread's not really changed. Armor of Contempt helped, but it helped everything. He still needs CP spent on him to make him really good.
You know, I haven't run Dreads since Armor of Contempt came out, and then I ran into 2 at that top table, 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, and Redemptor Dreadnoughts with Armor of Contempt, they're a lot more decent than they were. It's kind of the same as...
like them. I've got 2 Redemptors in my list.
Yeah,
I'm slowly building up my Venerable Dread collection now.
I don't... that would be good as well, Venerable Dreads, but I guess what I was trying to say is, like, we as Blood Angels players, it feels like we fixated on Sanguinary Guard and Death Company, right? Both these guys went down in points, very minor, but Armor of Contempt gave them kind of huge value, and we were like, oh, they went down in points and Armor of Contempt. But stuff like Redemptor Dreadnoughts, they're no joke now with Armor of Contempt, I think.
The Ironclad is my sleeper favourite dread at the moment.
It's not just that.
2-up save, Armor of Contempt, 135 points.
It's not just that. And I'm glad you raised this. Bringing a pure infantry army for Blood Angels leans into a lot of advantages that we've got running. But if you mix it with vehicles, then you're not such an easy target for no prisoner. You're not such an easy target for bring it down. You make your secondary choices that much harder for your opponent. So bringing a bit more combined arms in that way is ostensibly a very sensible thing to do.
I think it's fluffy as well.
Yeah, I was actually going to say you're absolutely right there, Mark, because I looked at my couple of last lists that I've made and that I ran at that tournament, and they would have given away 13 points for no prisoners. So even if he's not killing all my stuff, he's probably getting 10 points, right? Like it's an easy 10. Whereas if I drop like an elite or a fast attack and put in 2 redemptors, then that no prisoners probably drops to like 8 or 9. And he's not going to kill everything, so it's really 6 or 7. So it's a shit secondary for them to pick against.
I really value the plasma at the moment as well on the redemptors for that high AP.
An easy or reliable 10 or 11 on secondaries now is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, and yeah, I did look at my last list and no prisoners. I think because you get the bonus 1 over 5 and the bonus 1 over 10, it was like 12 or 13 points you could get, and yeah, you know, we still suffer in terms of like, if Blood Angels want to hold objectives, and we have to hold objectives that are open, we don't have units that really sit on objectives and absorb firepower. I mean, we can say Sanguinary Guard are more tanky, we can say Death Company are more tanky, but arguably against any good shooting army, they'll still wipe a squad of those guys if they can see them, right? So, if they're picking no prisoners and they just like, well, we just have to kill them anyway, it's actually really...
Yeah. Resilience is not one of the Blood Angels' strengths. Hitting hard is. Taking the punch, nah, not so much. Not as Glassjaw as, say, Eldar, but still.
Yeah,
they're still not. They're still fairly squishy, aren't they?
So we've kind of moved on a little bit to talk about secondaries. Do we want to talk about secondaries while we're at it? We've obviously just highlighted the problem essentially with no prisoners. I often talk about on my stream how I never like more than 3 characters in a list, because 3 characters is 10 victory points against you. The point you just made, Mark, about if people find an easy 10 or above, they're going to pick it. So the second you put that 4th character into the list, I just dislike running more than 3 characters. How do you guys feel about this?
I used to push it to 4, and I paid the price for it, and now I also play to a hard limit of 3 characters unless I've got a damn good reason otherwise.
Yeah. I only run 3 at the moment. I'm still rating the utility librarian quite high. Okay. I still think that Null Zone has got a place. A few people dropped it because of Armour of Contempt, thinking, oh, it's not that important now because everything's got better armour, but it depends on your meta a little bit. I'm still fighting a lot of Tau. I'm still fighting a lot of Eldar. They've got great invuln saves.
There's going to be a lot of things out there with 4+ invuns.
There's a lot of 4+ invuns. Nids is the other one. So I think that Null Zone is still worth its weight in gold.
I found myself very strongly considering, as one of my 3 characters for my current new list, running a jump pack librarian as one of them, with Null Zone and some power. Fuck knows what. Probably.
Quite like Mighty Heroes because it's fun to stick it on a dreadnought.
Yeah, I was thinking the fight first power, whose name temporarily escapes me.
We can take 3 if you go.
Yeah, and you're gonna be wanting to go Chief Librarian with a +1 to cast, because otherwise, why bother?
So I'm running Null Zone, Mighty Heroes, and the one first fight first.
But doing so gives you the option for taking the newly buffed Psychic Interrogation and using that as a reliable secondary against an army that can't easily deny you, of which there are some. And the way that gives you extra CP on a high cast these days, that's a really good, potent secondary to take if you can make good use of it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Psychic Interrogation is a good secondary. Would you go for it even if you only have 1 Psyker and let's say the opponent has no way to deny you, right? So you could potentially score the 15 points, but it would mean you wouldn't be able to cast any other powers, obviously. Do you still think it's valuable, or would you sort of...
the VP from that any day?
I think I probably would if I was using a little jump librarian, because they're quite easy to hide.
That's
and
true.
If I could keep him screened and just use him to score me a load of victory points, you'd have to be careful not to expose him. But
because Psychic Interrogation does not require line of sight.
So you can stick him behind a building and just suck up CP and psychically interrogate people.
Yeah. As long as I think my one piece of advice on that is just never take psychic interrogation if the enemies have psychers.
Yeah, you always. So the point of taking him would be you have the choice of taking psychic interrogation should the army in the matchup be worthwhile for it, and if not, you can always fall upon the always useful powers of null zone, smite, whatever the hell else you want to go into, and just make general use of him.
I'm really annoyed that I can't remember the name of that damn power for fight curse or whatever.
Oh, it's
I keep wanting to call it quicken, but it's not quicken.
It's
No.
not quickening. It's the one that lets you reroll charges as well. I never use it.
Yeah.
It's
a
number.
useful power.
I'm pretty sure it's
Look it
number
up.
one.
It's really going to bug me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I still
Exciting
think
stuff
the
here. Watching
utility-
us all look up some rules on our stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
I still think the utility librarian's got some place. All right, so let's have a look at secondaries then. Let's Blood Angel specific ones. Blade of Sanguinius. What are we thinking?
Love it.
I didn't realize till we did the stream the other night that you pick your Blade of Sanguinius target after both armies are deployed.
I didn't realise that until my opponent told me on the game I was playing against him where I'd already chosen it.
Yeah,
That was the
and
best bit.
I think that's the most exciting part about it. And also the opponent loses a CP if you kill the.
Yep. With the person who issued the challenge.
Yes.
That's
If you
a
score
massive
15
buff.
points, they also lose a CP for no readily apparent reason whatsoever, but they do. So
because it's
yeah,
awesome.
help.
It's cool.
Yeah.
That's why.
See, I wonder if a junk character or a bite character running the Hammer of Baal now, Death Company. So he's 135 points, right? If he's on a bike, I think he's 145 if he's not on a bike. He can make a 12-inch pregame move. He can then make another 12-inch move, or if he's on a bike, he can do 14. Because he's Death Company, he's getting 5 attacks.
Veil of Time.
Veil of Time, that's it.
One.
The second you charge at 6 attacks, you can then use your Death Vision, and why would you not use your Death Vision if it's going to potentially score you 15 points? Death Vision on a bridge of on the bridge of the Vengeful Spirit, +1 attack for every 5 enemies within 6, and reroll all your hits as well by default. So, and I mean, if you want to go even further, you could give him Imperium Sword that lets him reroll his charge and get another +1 strength and +1 attacks. So potentially, yes, it would be a 2 CP investment. I guess 3 CP if you Forlorn Fury, but 3 CP to throw basically a Smash Captain with like 9 strength, 9 attacks, rerolling all the hits, more attacks if there's more enemies around. They are going to wound on 2s, -3 damage. You could kill just about anything for 145
you're aiming
points.
15 VP and they lose a CP. It's risky. It's very high risk, but it's very nice
I
reward
think
as well.
it's one of those ones you've got to look at your opponent and whether they. But if they've not got a great way of screening him out, then this could be.
That's why you choose after they've deployed. And after
Yes.
you've determined who's got the first turn.
Yeah, but you've chosen Blade of Sanguinius. You just haven't chosen
Yeah.
your target.
Yeah, that's fair.
So if they know you've got that, then they. I mean, like we've said before, that's going to affect how they deploy. That's going to affect how they play, which has got its bonuses. But if they do screen all their characters out, maybe they're only running a couple of them or whatever, then it's going to be a little bit trickier to get in there.
Yeah.
And then that's whether the changes you've made to your opponent's battle plan are worth the investment.
I like it particularly because of all of the things we've discussed, they will affect how your opponent plays and deploys. Probably a character they will want to be upfront and in your face.
Yes.
They'll
Yeah.
either keep him away from you or they'll expose him to your attack and getting a cackload of VP.
Yeah. And I mean, at 3 damage a time, pretty much anything's dead with four failed saves. And we just said you got 9 attacks hitting on 2s, rerolling everything, wounding on 2s.
Yeah.
So unless they've got better than a 3-up invuln, or they're
Or they're a
Mortarian.
Demon Primarch or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Blade of Sanguinius is a lot better.
And that's
think
in
it's
with
good.
Purge the enemy, so you can either take that or Assassination or bring it down.
Yeah.
Or
Okay.
the Space Marines one is for that one. Is there a Space Marines one for that one?
Purge the enemy?
Don't think so. Oh yeah,
think
Codex
they've got-
Warfare. No one's taking fucking
Yeah.
No,
Codex Warfare.
Codex
Shit.
Warfare is rubbish.
Okay, I'm glad we covered Codex Warfare then. Yeah, no one's taking that. Relentless Assault, still good.
It is still good. It's one of those ones where it's kind of, do you take Relentless? Do you take Behind Enemy Lines?
You swap it out based on whether or not they can get in your DZ or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Relentless. I usually take Behind Enemy Lines just because I feel like it's the safer of the two.
Yeah.
But
Relentless has the flexibility if you can use aircraft with it if you really want to.
Yeah, and you can score Relentless. It racks up pretty quickly. If you can get a unit of anything in the corner. I think if you were running a drop pod as well, I think Relentless is brilliant. Like, you could run a drop pod with, like, a character, a couple of company veterans, and a death company inside. That's 4 units, and that's just going to be...
You've got to be careful which deployment plat you're playing on and how much space they've got and how many deployments they've got to screen you out and all this sort of stuff.
You're also, again, changing the way they play, because if they know you're going to do that, then they've got 2 choices, haven't they? Hold their own and spread out as much as they can to screen their deployment zone, or alternatively get units in your deployment zone. But either way, you've either penned them in a corner or they're breaking up so you can start killing off units piecemeal.
Yeah.
So potentially that's a good one for affecting the way they play.
Yeah.
And if you are considering taking Relentless Assault or behind enemy lines, then the other options that you could do are Engage on all fronts or Shock Tactics from Codex Space Marines.
Engage
on all fronts. Like Engage. Engage is one that I've run quite a lot.
I used to run it, and then I stopped running it, but they've changed it back. So if your qualifying unit ever had 3 models in it, so Outriders, for example, could score
Eliminators.
And
Eliminators are a good pick for it.
Inceptors are a good pick as well.
Yeah,
I like running a couple of land speeders, and they're quite nice for doing that with.
Yeah.
They're popular in meta at the moment, especially with Voidsmen or Scouts.
Yeah, very true.
It's not a bad one at all.
Oh, incidentally, there's potential new Voidsman models on the offing. If anybody saw the GW preview yesterday,
I don't like them.
No,
they look like they've got bins on their head.
Fair enough.
Right,
maybe not then. Bin. Okay, moving on.
Maybe you need to make a video for the Grots about that. Okay. The next
it's going to be a YouTube short, and it's just going, why are they wearing a bin?
Yeah,
and that's the end of the video.
Why G-dubs? Why?
Let's talk about Fury of the Lost.
All right.
How many Death Company do you need to realistically pick this secondary? Because I think it's probably 3 units minimum.
Minimum. I think you need all of them. You need 3 units of Death Company, probably a Death Company character, maybe a Death Company Dreadnought.
So you just lean heavily into the Death Company. But if you do that, you probably score 15 points.
If I had 4 Death Company units, I'd consider it. If I had 5 or more, I'd be seriously looking at it. If I had less than 4, I'd write it off.
I mean, if you've got 4, you're getting 4 anyway, assuming they all die.
Yeah.
In different turns. I mean, so you throw 1 in each turn.
That's it, in different turns. That's the thing.
I ran an all Death Company army last year for a laugh. And it was glorious, but rubbish because I couldn't score any secondary points.
Oh, you could score some now with Fury of the Lost.
So you could do it because you just go all in. You run 3 units of Death Company, a Death Company captain or lieutenant or both, Death Company Dreadnought or 2, maybe stick them in a drop pod if you're feeling like it.
Yeah, and take away the Secondaries as well because you're charging.
You're going to smash anything you hit.
Okay.
I've run big Death Companies as well, so that they took a little while to kill them down.
I don't think this makes a Death Company list competitive. I think it does make them a bit more viable and fun to play if you're running a Death Company focused army. I just wouldn't expect to go top tables with it.
Yeah, I think we've seen a few lists, like your list you mentioned, Mark, and also we've seen quite a few people now looking at basically with that point drop on Death Company. We're now seeing like people run that typical 4 or 5 hammer 5-man, and now we're seeing maybe like a 5-man with power swords or a 5-man with a few hammers and some other weapons and infernal pistols.
I like power swords on them.
Yeah, I do as well. So
that's good.
I think
they're cheap, they're killy. You're not so bothered when they all die.
I think 2 Death Company is interesting, but I don't think it's enough to take Fury of the Lost.
No, I don't.
Oh, totally not.
Okay, and then Death from Above.
I do like this one.
That has play.
If you've got a jump pack army, like Mark's one he was just talking about, with, what's that? So you've got 3 Sanguinary Guard, 2 Death Company, all of which are going to kill things when they come down, potentially, and they're certainly going to kill things on subsequent turns. You're going to have most of your army. Every time it kills something, you gain victory points.
Yeah, unit of Plasma Scepters should delete something.
Yeah, true.
I think you could. If you've built your army with all jump packs, you can score a lot. And this also works with Guerrilla Tactics. I know you're unlikely to kill anything in Guerrilla Tactics, You
Of
could.
course you can.
You can do, yeah. So
also
also
works-
eliminators. Eliminator's got a bit of punch.
Yeah,
Drop.
it works with on wings of fire.
It does.
It works with drop pods.
It works with drop pods.
Yeah, if you're building for death from above, which I think could be a viable tactic, I think if you seriously want to score this and max it every game, you probably want to look at putting something shooty or maybe chargy in a drop pod and bring it down turn one, try and hurt something.
Yeah, I mean, it would help to just start your scoring up on turn one. The other thing that I kind of liked...
Otherwise, you're limiting your scoring to 4 turns. And whilst you can score 3 or 4 points per turn, maybe even 5 if you're lucky, limiting your scoring to 4 turns, I don't like it. That's kind of why I think you want to be doing something with drop.
What would work for that? Dreadnought drop pod?
Yeah.
Well, any drop pod would work, but...
Then you're not reliant on... You can bring down a shooty dread.
Or a pod with a unit of devastators in it.
Shoot something. Yeah, because then you're not reliant on your 9-inch charge from your drop pod.
A pod with a unit of 5 devastators with grav cannons in it. That should do a bit of damage. What's wrong with that?
Sorry, let me walk off and have a quick vomit.
There's nothing wrong with Mark. The other thing that might work here, I suppose, that no one's mentioned and I only thought about recently, that's also going to work with engage on all fronts now.
You could say suppressors.
I was going to say reserved attack bikes with multi-meltas because they are only power level 2. Yeah. So you could get 4. You could get 2 squads of 2 attack bikes. That's a lot of multi-melta fire. It's actually a lot of bolter chip damage as well. So chip away something, each attack bike gets...
Cool.
I could see this being an absolute shoe-in for people running Flesh Terrors.
It would be good for Flesh Terrors, 100%, yeah.
Because you can drop pod in one drop pod, you can have a little 5-man Death Company of Doom. You can stick Gabriel Seth. You can stick a company champion of some description. And you've still got a couple of spare slots for company veterans with lightning claws or whatever.
Yeah, and you also now can make a shorter charge because of those janky terrain rules.
Which means that you've got, 4 units out of one drop pod?
Mm-hmm.
All of which can score on subsequent turns.
Okay, so Death from Above is...
Yeah. I wouldn't go half-hearted into it or half-assed.
No, you've got to go all in.
Feels like you kind of have to go in on a bunch of our secondaries, to be honest.
Yeah.
I guess it's...
Which is pretty bloody.
I quite like that.
Which is... It really comes down to how you can overlap them, I guess. To score big.
What do we think
of the Space Marines ones as well? Sorry, go on.
Oh, go on. It's literally what you just said.
Yeah.
Perfect, yes. We do want to look at shock tactics. And
shock tactics? That's not where I thought you were going with this.
I knew, that's where I knew he was going.
I like shock tactics, but I don't like that most of the time you're not going to be able to score shock tactics in turn 1.
And let me just read this, because if you're anything like me, you don't know this one off by heart.
Okay.
So at the end of your turn, score 3 victory points if you control 1 or more objective markers that were controlled by your opponent at the start of that turn, and an Adeptus Astartes unit from your army is within range of that objective's marker.
It's a little bit like Stranglehold. However, you have to kill something and you have to do it in that turn, meaning and if you go first, it's going to be, unless your Death Company can get right into their deployment zone and get them off an objective, which seems like a stretch.
Yeah, definitely a stretch.
I don't think you're scoring that.
You're not scoring it in turn 1. Unless they go first and move up onto midfield objective, then maybe you can score it.
But...
And if you go second, you're only scoring it if they've got advanced infiltrators of some description. Is the only easy way of doing that.
Yeah.
And you're banking on killing whatever you're hitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they're using infiltrators or whatever like that and they transhuman them, then you might not. Or if they're custodes, you might not. I don't like it, if I'm honest. I don't like the requirement to kill it and beyond that in the same turn. Because you can't necessarily rely on the melee to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
you don't have to kill, though. You could just obsec it from them. It doesn't specifically say kill. It just says you control it. And we do have rights of war on a captain, so...
And visage.
So it depends on how easy you think you can flip things. If you think you can flip things easily, but you look at your opponent's army and think, shit, they don't have much obsec, I can flip stuff anywhere with my troops and with rights of war. Another thing that's nice about rights of war is you can daisy chain that, right? So, like, your 5-man squad is daisy chained back to the character who's hidden in...
You can only do 1 per turn, though, as well, can't you? So
just 3 points a turn.
being mobile enough and jumping from objective to objective and moving does play into what Blood Angels can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't dislike it. I just dislike that it's going to be hard to score in turn 1.
I
Yeah,
think
you're
it's gonna be
effectively
hard to
capped
score.
at 12. Effectively.
I think you're going to really struggle to score more than about 9 with that.
Yeah, it might be. But I mean, it's good to have something to fall
It's not
back
a bad one
on.
having you in your pocket, is it?
No, it's like if you just need something that's you've got the other two sorted and you can't find something. I don't hate shock tactics.
What else is in the same slot as that one as Battlefield Supremacy? Behind enemy lines, engage on all fronts, or Relentless Assault.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
probably going to take one of those.
Or a different category.
Unless, of course, you think that you'll never be able to get into their deployment zone, I guess, and then you might struggle, I guess. It could be worth thinking
It's
about.
worth a think, isn't it? It's worth a look. What about Oaths? You still thinking about taking it? Because people were building around it.
People were building 5 Centurions to go middle around.
So, to summarise the changes on Oaths of Moment, only core or characters, is it, as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, only core or characters can score the central objective portion of Oaths of Moment now. And instead of scoring 2 a turn, that bit now only scores 1 a turn.
Yes,
So
big change.
It is harder to score, and it is harder to score. It's hard to score as much as it used to.
Yeah, I mean, before Oath usually in most games would give you 12 to 14. So I imagine now it will be somewhere in that 9 to 11 range you talked
I
about.
think if you lower than that, I think you get about 8 out of it now.
I disagree. For me, for any game with a central objective, with 5 objective markers, I will still strongly consider taking Oaths of Moment because of the killing characters, vehicles, monsters, the not falling back
We've
bit,
got to do that
the
anyway.
holding the central objective. Yeah, exactly. You can still... You're probably not going to max it, but as John said, scoring 9 to 11 points on it shouldn't be a real stretch.
Yeah, I think so. And
If you've not got an objective in the middle, maybe not.
yeah, I think I agree with you. I mean, unless you're clutching and there's nothing else around.
And if I
What's the
recall
No
correctly,
Mercy
there's-
one, though? That's the thing.
If I recall correctly, there's 7 missions out of 9 that have got central objectives.
So what are we
No
losing
Mercy
in
is
that?
grind
We
them
lose
down
Death
and-
from Above. We lose Fury of the Lost, which I don't think anybody's going to take anyway. Grind them down and no prisoners.
Yeah. I
Which,
very
when
rarely
you take them, they'll be situational, but they'll be powerful.
I
When you take
like
them.
grind them down, but I don't play in that kind of trading style that seems very popular at the moment.
I don't ever take grind them down. I really don't.
I've come foul of it every single time I thought I could do well.
To be
with
honest, I do take it a lot when I'm running my custodes because I just assume I'm going to kill you and you're not going to kill me.
it.
Sure.
That's fair.
I don't take it that often with.
I think grind them down is one of these objectives that pushes me to play the game how I don't like to play it. You know, like I like to trade up whenever I can. I never like to throw away units. Everything in my army is precious. And sometimes with grind them down, it's like, well, you just need to kill one more
You lose a
thing.
unit if you do grind them down because if you lose more units than they lose, you don't get any points.
Which is similar to the reason why I don't like engage on all fronts, because I don't like feeling forced to spread my army out into all these places where I don't necessarily going to have to want to go.
Yeah.
No prisoners is worth taking sometimes.
Yeah,
of
when
course
it's worth
it
it,
is.
it's worth it.
Necrons and Tau, no prisoners are almost like a auto pick, I'd say.
How?
Tyranids as well.
Well, if it's Tau and it's all crisis suits and shield drones, yeah. Because every single model is infantry, right?
Yeah, but
Well, every
suppose
single thing you
wounds,
kill is wounds.
it
Yeah,
costs
battle
so
suits
many
are.
points.
What's so
So
many
unit
points?
5, how many wounds is that going to have? That's going to have, 15 wounds, a couple
No.
of shield drones as well. So let's say 20 wounds.
No, there's 4 wounds per crisis suit now. So a unit of 5 is 20, and then you add in like 5 shield drones with 2 wounds a pop. That's 30 points if you kill them.
They're annoying.
So when Andrew
Yeah,
played
that
that, he ran like 3 squads of crisis suits, 5 mans. I think one of them was actually a 6, and each had like 5 shield drones. That's 100 points for no prisoners before you even get started, and that's only half the army.
It was pre-nerf, so that might change a little now.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, the principle still stands.
Or-
Likewise, unless they're running big beasties, Tyranids will also give up all the wounds in the world.
yeah,
Although most Tyranid lists I've seen so far are all big beastie.
there's a good.
leaning at the moment.
Okay, so
I still haven't learnt my Tyranid Codex that I paid money for.
have I missed it? Did they remove Titan Hunter?
Titan Hunter has now been folded into Bring It Down.
Makes sense.
Titan
Okay.
Hunter does not exist. You either kill big things or you
You
don't
get the
kill
same
big
amount of points
things.
for it. It's just rounded in to bring it down.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's another one, a bit like No Prisons. If it's worth taking, it's worth taking. If it's not, it's not. It's
Pretty much.
Okay, anything else on secondaries, or have we kind of covered everything?
Are there any more generic ones that we quite like the look of at the moment? Assassinate's still good.
Yes, that's hasn't changed. Bring it
We
down,
like
as we said.
Psychic Interrogation now.
Yeah, Warp Ritual, I don't really rate for
No,
us.
I think
I've
you
got my
struggle a
eye
bit
on
when
it
it comes
from
to that.
my Eldar army, but not for Blood Angels.
What about Nephilim and Banners? How do we feel about that at the moment?
Well, Nephilim doesn't really change, right? So if you have the right army, if you have... I mean, a lot of people on Blood Angels are taking assault squads now. So if you can take a 6-man assault squad with the... or a 6-man Voidsman squad to do Nephilim, I still kind of like it.
Or even 5 if you're happy with that 1 in 6 chance of failure, which is not that high.
Yeah, it's not that high. And Raise the Banners got better in the...
I like Banners at the moment.
So on any map that there's 6 objectives and 3 of them are pretty comfortably on your side of the table, I guess you just need to just think, can I get 3 banners on here? We have a great opportunity in that most Blood Angels players run a couple of squads of incursors, meaning that you've got forward deployment, meaning you're on all 3 in turn 1, raise yourself 3 banners and just start scoring. I think it's a fine pick if you're on a 6 objective map.
I don't run incursors. I run infiltrators. I think they're even better at it.
But they can do the same thing, right?
With the change of banners, there is something to be aware of as well. You can raise the banner and then fuck off, and the banner will still keep scoring, until they take it away from you.
Which is nice. So I do like banners at the moment.
It's not great, but it's a nice thing to bear in mind.
Yeah, and the banner only gets flipped in the command phase, which is the big change. So if you have a Sangre Guard hiding just off an objective, if the opponent moves onto it, it's no longer theirs. You can heroically intervene and kill them, and then keep your banner up. So banners with tactical play is still a good choice. I never take it on 5 objective maps, but any 6 objective map that 3 of them are you can get to easily, then I like banners.
I think if you were really used to playing Stranglehold, you could definitely make a case for running Raise the Banners on a 5 objective map.
Again,
because you're focusing on holding those 3 objectives throughout the game.
Because, they haven't got any good secondaries. For my custodes, I'm running, even on 5, I'm banners and grind them down.
Okay.
I'm taking pretty consistently.
Yeah. If you're going to commit to holding 3 objectives throughout the game, then you'll max banners.
Because that's how they play. You just put big old units of custodian guard on the objective. You can heroically intervene if you want to, and then you sit there and go, "Come at me."
Yeah.
Have a go if you think you're hard enough.
Yeah.
Well, we do now because Rajan Valoris went up to 200 points. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, and we're getting off topic on that one. The best build for them was bring a shitload of custodian guard and swamp the middle of the board. And now with all the nerfs to them, all that's happened is they've made every other build completely unviable.
Yeah. I mean, the bikes were obnoxious before. Anyway, we're off topic. What's the next thing we need to cover on Nephilim?
So we've covered CP changes, we've covered name characters, we've covered the secondaries, we've covered sort of detachments. I think we've covered it. Yeah,
that's basically it. We've touched on the points drops that have affected us, which is Death Company and Sangard and Asterath. Eliminators have got their points drop, which means you can take Las Fusils for free. Assault squads have got their points drop, which means you can take almost all of their special shit for free or 5 points, which is very tasty, including their jump packs. So they're quite cheap for some effective stuff.
Jump packs are nice for doing stuff. I do like the Eliminators at the moment. I'm very tempted to stick a couple in my list as speed bumps and
I mean, if you 2 eliminators allows Fusils and your sergeant with the instigator and you move, shoot, move, and you never expose them to return fire, you might not kill stuff, but you're shooting things with thunder hammers
into something or put them in the way. And the enemy's got to charge them and get them out of the way.
Or guerrilla tactics them off the board. They come back on, they shoot something, you maybe score some DFA points. Whatever you want to do.
Okay, then the only other thing I suppose we should touch on is because we didn't do any content yet on the balance update, and the one thing, I think the main thing to say for Blood Angels then was the changes to the super heavy ox detachment, right? In that
would directly affect us, yeah.
you can now take the super heavy ox attachment if it shares the faction keyword Blood Angels, not Adeptus Astartes, it needs to be Blood Angels, then you will essentially be able to not spend any CP to get that detachment. Meaning that if you took an Astreus, you'd not spend any CP to include an Astreus in your list. If you did say something with Martial Legacy, I guess like Mastodon or Spartan, that new Spartan, the plastic Spartan, you'd pay 1 CP for that. So that's very reasonable.
Yeah, given the CP reduction you have to build your army with, I think doing that was only fair and reasonable. It's a shame that it doesn't filter through to bringing a knight with your army, but I suppose you can't have everything.
You can't have everything. And knights are just as viable as they were before, because they cost just the same as they were before, although arguably you've got a little bit less CP to start with, so...
Yeah, I think you're going to be thinking twice as to whether you wouldn't want to drop 3 CP on a knight detachment or not.
I mean, the Castellan is still a very good heavy support choice, I think.
Yeah. I think I will definitely give it a go, running 3 armages.
Yeah.
I've got to try that one day.
I still prefer the Knight Gallant to the Castellan because it's cheaper. So nothing's changed there. That's still the 3 we talked about before.
Yeah, it is indeed. And we're making a tier list next time on the Grotz channel. So for Imperial Knights, and we're going to include the Forge World Knights there as well, right?
We are. None of the Forge World Knights are worth taking. Just let's get that straight out there at the beginning.
No spoilers for the video, man. No spoilers.
It's not. Yeah, they're rubbish. But look cool. They're much better models.
Fucking Battle Scribe. Update your Battle Scribe data. Delete all previous data. Start a new list from scratch. If you're having problems, do those things. And if you come to me and saying it's not working and you haven't done those things, be ready for sarcasm.
Okay. Thank you, Mark and Tony, so much for helping me dive into this. I hope it was useful. And that's it. That's
the
it.
sun has fried his brain. There's no thoughts left anymore. They're
Still
all just
got sunburn.
radiating off his forehead.
Yeah, it feels pretty hot. Cool. If there's any other questions, you can leave them in the comments below. We'll do our best to answer them. Obviously, you can join our Discord. And finally, please also consider joining us for our next episode of the Three Grots podcast, which comes out every second Thursday. We cover all things 40k, and sometimes we cover random shit as well. So,
and if you're lucky, John will leave a link to them somewhere in the video description.
I'll do that. I can manage that.
He won't. Just like you won't edit out that middle bit.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Peace.